Are you struggling with baking your materials and ending up with messy texture? I try to bake decals and combine them into funnel texture and it's just getting confusing. Yeah, I've been there. That's why I built this. This is MatricX Bake for Blender and it makes the entire baking process stupidly simple. You just have to choose your settings, hit bake, and you get a clean, game-ready texture in just a few clicks. No complicated setup, no guessing. Watch this. Alright, this is going to be a full breakdown. I'll show you exactly how to bake materials, decals, and even trim sheets, step by step. And even if you don't get the add-on right now, you can still learn how simple this process can be. So, let's start with installation. How do you actually get the tool? MatricX Bake is currently available on my Gumroad page, and for my Blender Market user, it will be released in 6 to 7 days because they need to approve my add-on and then only you can download it. So if you want it right now, you can get it on my Gumroad, and if you want it on Blender Market, wait for a couple days until it's get published. So that's how you can get the tool. Now after you purchase the tool, you need to install it into your Blender. So go to your edit, preferences, and add-on. Now just like any Blender add-on, you can install the zip file. So let me click this little arrow and click on install from disk. And from there, navigate it to your downloaded file. So I put it inside my folder. So there it is, MatricX Bake add-on. Just double click it and that's it. You install the add-on successfully. There is no complicated setup. You just install it and you boot to go. Now save your preferences. Now let me actually show you all the tools and how to bake all the maps and combine them, like everything practically step by step. So first we need a mesh. So I'm going to add a simple cube and we need to UV unwrap the model. So go to UV editing tab and you can start unwrapping using the Smart UV project. Now the goal here is that you don't need a perfect UV, like you don't need to mark the seams and getting the perfect unwrap. You can just run a Smart UV unwrap with Iceland margin about 0.01 or 0.02. Just make sure that your UV is not overlapping. So to verify this, click on click on select and choose select overlap. So if there's any overlap, this will be shown here, like some area will be highlighted. Then you have to manually fix it. So if your mesh is so complicated, just make sure to set the island margin to about 0.3 or 0.5, which will give you a better result. So that's pretty much it. We'll finish the UV. Now let's start adding some material to this. I'm using MatricX Pro to add material. So if you would like to get this add-on too, we actually have a bundle where you get the MatricX Pro and then the MatricX Bake all at once. So just a single purchase, you get to both tools done. Now I'm going to add a material to this. So let me pick a blue color and click on generate. And I would like to set the roughness to 0.4. That's it. So we UV unwrap the model and we assign the material. The next step, which is to bake this material map, because currently this running through a procedural node. It's not a big complicated node setup, just a mapping node, texture, noise texture, and the bump node. So it's really simple, but later I'll show you how to bake the complex nodes that other add-ons cannot do that. So first let's make it everything simple and then we can focus on the big stuff. So right now it's a procedural node. We need to convert this into image texture. So press N to open the side panel and from there choose MatricX Bake. And this is how the tool's gonna looks like. And at the top you can see that we got some small instruction over here. And one thing I forgot to mention is that after you purchase the add-on, you got a separated zip file on instruction. And in that we got a text format of how to use the add-on. So you better try to read those text and get those information, or you can just watch the full guide, whatever, it's your preference. Now at the bottom you can see that we got the maps. So currently it's selected to base color, roughness, metallic and normal. And if you have any emission or ambient occlusion in your material, you can choose that, but mostly these default 4 maps are more than enough for a better texture. So I don't have any emission in my node, so I just leave the emission to 0, but if you have, you can set this to on. Next up, we got a resolution. So we got 2K, 1K, 2K, 4K and 8K. So depending on your choice, you can switch between your resolution, and I would like to stick with 2K. And for the margin, yeah, you can set to 4, 8, 16, just your choice. Next, which is really important, output folder. Like, you need to tell Blender where the bake maps needs to get baked. You can see that it's currently having a red color in it. It means that it's not set up properly. So in order to bake your material, you need to tell Blender where it gets saved. So to do that, click this file icon, and I recommend you to create a new folder for your bake maps. So I already done that. So you can see that we have a separated folder called bake texture. So it's currently having a 2 file in it just because I've tested this around. So it's just the whole bake maps. I'm gonna simply delete it. And you don't really have to delete your whole folder because this add-on can easily detect your model based on your file name and the data in it. So even if you have some folder in it, don't worry, it doesn't cause any issue. But I just want to make it clean, so I delete it. Now click on accept. So we assign the map. You can see that the warning sign is get removed. That's a good thing. Next is the format. You can set to any format you want, but mostly PNG works better. And if you need any extra format, just let me know in the comment, we will add it. Next, which is a save mode. So right now it's set to save image only. So this will bake the normal maps and metallic and all 4 maps as separated images inside the folder. And it will be fine, but for me, it's better to click on the second mode, which will create a separated folder for your map based on the name of your mesh. So that will be very easy for you to find out, because especially if you're baking multiple maps, it might be confusing on which map gets which. So it's better to set the save mode to the second one, which is create a object folder. So that's it. And next we have a map packing. We got ORM pack, RMA and ARM. So these are the stuff that game engine maps. So ORM is used for the Unity, I guess. So if you know that, you can click it. If you don't, just leave it. Next, which is batch setting. So right now it's set to active object. So active object means like the object is currently stay active. Like even if you have a multiple object that going on your scene, like this much, and if you select by them by pressing A to select them all, and tell me which one is the active object. You maybe think the tree or the active, but it's not. Active object mean which object is selected last. So if I hold the shift key and select this one, now this will be highlighted with a light orange, which means this is the active. Even though if you have selected 3 objects, this is the active one. So Blender will only bake the maps for this one. It will ignore these 2. But if you want to bake a multiple meshes at once, you can set to selected object. Now when your selected object will get baked, it doesn't matter if it's 300 or 500, all those selected material maps get baked. Next we have a collection. So if you would like to be more organized, you can put all your mesh into a collection and then bake the collection, which will be a best option if you're baking multiple maps. And finally we have visible object. So whatever that visible on your viewport, Blender will bake the material map for that. So it's very easy and very useful. So for now, I just want to bake to a single material. So I choose to selected or active, both works, but yeah, let's choose to selected and delete these 2. So that's all the settings. I hope you get a clear understanding on how to use the tool. Now let's see how quick we can bake the materials. I select my model and make sure that UV is done, and I want to click on bake material. So that's it. It just takes like 5 to 6 seconds, and it depending on the model. Right now it's simple texture, so it takes less than 5 seconds. But if it's as a complex texture, it takes like 10 to 15 seconds. and it's also based on your PC performance. Like, I think I almost forgot one setting here, which is a performance, and right now it's set to auto detect. And if you have a powerful GPU, you can come here and set your GPU, so that way Blender will use that to bake, but mostly auto detect works. Like, it will detect the GPU based on your system, so then it is used the GPU to bake. So you don't really have to worry about that. If you want, you can switch individually, but mostly auto detect works better. So we got our maps get baked. If you go to the file manager, like, just copy the location where you set the path and then paste it on your file manager. And let's see this bake all the maps. Yep, you can see that it baked the base color, metallic, normal, and roughness, and with some data in it. So these are the maps that we clicked on the bake settings, so it bakes everything successfully. But right now, when you switch to shading, you don't see any image texture gets built. And if you want, you can take those images and put them into the folder and manually assign them. But if you hate that, if you don't even want to visit the node setup, you can click on the setup bake map. This will automatically plug in all the nodes and setting up the texture for you. So it's really simple and it's clean, makes the job really quick. So next what? We bake the materials. Now let's see how to bake the decal maps, which is the essential features that our add-on gives you. So first, we need a decal machine because this add-on only support decal machine decals. Or if you're having a decals that doesn't use decal machine, you find a way to bake those decal maps, because the reason we're using a decal machine is to get the baking. But if you know how to bake your decals, that's your choice. Now press D and let's add a decal. So first let me start with something like a label. How about we choose this one? Alright, I'm gonna scale this down and shift project it. And next on this side, we can add something like a surface detail. So we can choose this one, like emission like of detail. Click it, over the side, shift project. And since we're just gonna bake the normal map, we don't really have to assign a color, because right now we have a white border around it and people would normally match it with the base material, but I don't really care because I just get the normal map done and it will bake the color automatically, so you don't really have to worry about that. And next on the side we can add some decal, but for now I think it's more than enough. So first let's see how these work and then we can build more decals and bake it. So we got two decals. The next step, which is to bake those decals, because currently it's having a mixed nodes. Like when you go to the shading tab, you can see that it running on the node groups. Even though if you think that it having an image texture, it still have the node group. So when you export as a FBX or OBJ, this will be result as a plain white. It's result as a white plane. So we need to bake those map. It's really simple. Just go to your decal machine add-on and click this export panel, and from there switch to bake and make sure your two decals are selected and the settings are, let me just set this to CPU and anti-analysis to 2x. Then resolution is fine, everything is good, you don't really have to do anything. And from here I need a color map, normal, emission, I need everything. And you can see that the bake is currently looks gray. It's because you need to select your target. Like it needs to tell Blender where the decals needs to get baked. So lastly select it with shift click the object and click on bake. And make sure this option is enabled, which is really important for our workflow. Open bake folder, because this is where it tells Blender and tells us where the bake maps get saved. So make sure this one is checked. Now click on bake. That's it. Alright, it's get bake all those map. Just take a bit longer than our add-on, but anyway, we got all our maps get baked. Now we need to copy this location. So click on this file, Ctrl A and Ctrl C, copy it. Then come up to our MatricX Bake. Now let me share about how this method works. So this will ask two input. We need to tell this add-on where the two maps get baked. So on the decal area, you can see that it's red, which means we need to tell it where the decal maps get baked. That way it will understand and bake the map. So I'm going to click it and Control V to paste it. And then we need to assign the material base map. So click on the file icon and choose the location where we bake the all four maps. Click on accept. So right now we assign the two file locations. So this tells this add-on, hey, I got this maps get baked on this area and I got another map baked on this area. Your job is mixing them both using the shader, so that way the both decals and material is be revealed on my model. So I don't really want to lose any texture, I just want to capture both maps in my model. So that is the simplest explanation. And if you want, you can read it, like you have a small information over here. So if my explanation sucks, you can read it. Alright, so both locations are get assigned. Now what you need to do is just select your object and click on combine map. And make sure to confirm all the maps are being displayed on your screen. So once everything is fine, click on OK. So that's it. Now you maybe wonder, oh, what is the change? Like if I delete this decal, you can see it's project the normal map. Like it feels like someone did a work over here, but it's just a plain texture. And I can show you that if I go to the viewport shading, it's just a flat area. But it looks like it's have some depth, you know what I mean? Like someone physically do some geometry work here, but it's just a normal map result. Cool, isn't it? Now let's come up to this one. If I delete it, yeah, it's maybe get a bit darker, but that's fine because when you export into a game engine, it won't reveal that much. But yeah, since it's having a metallic surface, it projected maybe get a bit darker, but it doesn't affect any of your quality. So that's fine for me. Now basically, this doesn't attach to the model, it just print the details onto the model. So if I go to the shading tab, you can see it mixes the both decal map and the material using a node setup. You can see it's mixed using a color map. And if you want, you can adjust it at any time over here before you start the final bake. So it's beautiful. But right now, if you bake in this condition, this will result as a plain texture. Your normal map doesn't reveal, the texture might be flat. The reason because it's using the mix color. So in order to make it as a simple texture, you need to run a final test, which is the step 5 doing a final bake. So this will convert everything into a simple texture and make it a game ready texture. So select your object, click on final bake. It takes a couple of minutes, probably like 30 to 40 seconds depending on your computer and depending on the complexity of your material. But generally it takes less than a minute, and if it takes more than a minute, just wait, it will finish. The one thing I forgot to mention is that the bake sample. Currently my bake sample is 128, which is really huge. If you have a really powerful computer, you don't really have to worry, but if you're having a low end or you think that your computer doesn't handle the heavy thing kind of stuff, and if you want it really fast, you need to set the bake sample to like 5 or 10. That's more than enough. You don't really have to bake with 128 samples. That just makes the baking time really long. I forwarded, but I just want you to know that you don't have to make the same mistake. So before you click on final bake, just be sure that bake sample is set to 5 or 10. That almost gives you the similar result. So yeah, be aware of that. Alright, finally it finished the baking. Now when I go to the shading tab, you can see that all the nodes will be now converted into a simple texture files. Now it's game ready. You can export it, sell it, you can do whatever. The texture won't lose because it's just a simple texture. Now let me show you how to actually bake the trim sheets, which is really important. So for that, I'm going to add another cube. let's do some basic things. So I'm going to select this edge and make a small bevel like this. And then we can actually apply some simple material, or we can apply a complex one. So this time let's switch to a special matte, and I'm going to add this gold, maybe not this one, damaged gold. Alright, the gold material is now applied. Now we need to UV unwrap the model. So go to the UV editing tab and select all U and run a smart UV with island margin of 0.1 is fine. Next, we can add some trim sheet over here. So go to the face mode, select this area, and let's add maybe this one. Got it. Now we got some trims going on our surface. You can bake at this stage, but the problem is when you add the trims, the UV will be collapsed. Let me show you what I meant. In the UV tab, you can see that this will be overlapping. If you want, you can move it somewhere here, but the problem is if you move this UV, the texture will be misplaced. Like you can see that we lose the texture. So we can't do anything about that. And when the UVs are overlapping, that can cause some issue with the baking material. So the one way to fix this issue is actually temporarily make this one a separated piece. So I'm going to select this one. So if there's any trims on your surface, select all those faces and press P and separate it. And once you've done that, you're left with this. So now you can first bake the material map. So for that, I'm going to the MatricX Bake, and all the settings are already applied, so we don't have to change anything. And yeah, the location will be fine. It's going to be a new folder for this, but be sure that you're naming specifically. So when you are exporting into a game engine, make sure that the names are proper. It's not cube001. It needs to be an actual name. But for now, I'm just going to leave this default. Then click on Bake. There you have it. The material gets baked. Now we can set up the material. And next we need to bake this trim sheet as a separated bake map. So this one is selected. So if you have multiple trims, just select them all and then come over to the bake settings, and you can simply click on bake. That will take some time, but be sure that you don't UV unwrap those trims, because when you unwrap the trims, the texture might be misplaced. So just separate the trims and then start baking it. And we can notice that after baking, we lost the trims. But don't worry, when you click on the setup bake, it will bring back the trim sheet. And now this is no longer a complex nodes, it's just a simple texture. And if you don't believe me, you can go to the shading tab. And like I said, it's just simple images. It works on any format like FBX OBJ or any game engines. And this is also a simple texture. So that's how easily you can bake the trim sheets in your mesh. And if you want to join them, it's very simple. Just select the both object and press Ctrl+J, and you successfully join them. So that's how simple this add-on can make the baking process. You don't really have to learn about how do I baking, how do I combine decals into my material, how do I export. You don't worry about all those things. Just use this add-on and make your life much more simpler. You can just focus on your modeling stuff, just improve your skill, learn how to model better and how to use booleans, workflow, learn about the topology. Just focus on your stuff on modeling, and rest of the process the add-ons can handle. So if you're finding a way to add a realistic material with the imperfection systems like Substance, you can use the MatricX Pro. It's available on my Gumroad page. So it have a functionality like Substance, so you can add all the imperfection and customize at any time you want. Or if you prefer to buy the bundle, you can buy the bundle. You get MatricX Pro as well as the MatricX Bake all at once. So it's your choice. The link will be in the description. And now finally, I would like to show you the workflow of how to actually bake multiple meshes. So for that, I'm going to add a sphere and add a cube, then a cylinder all at once. GY, move them so that we can see each objects clearly. And yeah, now we can focus on adding some material. So first, let me show you whether if this add-on can support MatricX layer system. So I'm going to set the color to black, something like a dark metal. And we can start add some imperfections. So first, I would like to add a fingerprint. And we can adjust the settings. So the layer blend to be 1 or maybe 0. Oh, 0 is not the valid. So it's the least value, which is 0.2. And the fingerprint scale to be low, something like 0.2, 0.37. And the color, I don't really need. That's fine. Now let's add another layer of imperfection. So this time I'm going to add a scratch. Alright, the scratch is going on our surface. So let me actually show you the complexity of this node. So go to the shading tab. And from here you can see that there is some multiple BSDFs going on, and it's really hard to bake the material. Like, just imagine how hard it is to bake the material. Like, you have to add image texture, then set the metallic value of each BSDF to 0. So that way the color will be perfect. And like, you have to bake the normal maps, roughness, and adding emissions. Like, it's fucking hell. Like, it's practically really hard, and you end up with a flat texture. Even though if you try to bake it, the texture might be flat and boring. So that's the main reason why we use the bake tool. Now let's see how simply we can bake the tools. But before that, I would like to add some simple material to this two objects. So I don't really want to make anything complicated here, because since we've shown a proof of whether this add-on can bake a complex material or not, so this could be a simple one. So just change the color to like something like this. And this one could be let's say, yeah, make it simple. I want to increase the brightness, set this to dark, set this to a red color, and generate. So I have to make sure that UV is unwrapped. So U smart UV unwrap, and this one unwrap. Oops, U unwrap, and finally this cube U smart unwrap. Now I'm gonna select these three objects and apply auto smooth. Then go to the MatricX Bake, set the batch settings to selected because we selected this three object, and samples 2, that's fine, and the location, yeah, that's fine. Now click on bake. Alright, it's really quick. So now let's start setting up the material. You don't really have to worry about setting up the textures. So simply click on the setup bake maps. Done. For this one, done. And this one is also done. Now let's view how this actually bake the maps, because since it has a big complexity node setup, let's see whether this add-on can handle that more. There you go. You can see that it converts all the complex node into a simple textures. You can even take all this image texture and pack them into a texture and sell it if you want to. But generally, this is how this add-on works. It's simple, quick, and you don't have to do anything complicated. You just have to adjust the settings and start baking it if you want to make your life much easier. So now let me know what you think about this add-on in the comment section below. And if you would like to get this add-on, it's just $10 if you're a student or indie developer. So right now, go to my page on Gumroad, and for my first 50 buyers, the price would be $9.99. And after that 50 slot is completed, the amount will be set to default, which is $15. So if you want to grab it right now, the special offer is going on. So grab it and install it into your Blender and makes the texturing process and baking like it's not even a big deal. You know what I mean? Just focus on your modeling, improve your skill, and yeah, that's it.